Hello friends. I'm glad to see you on my channel of strange interesting stories, so let's get started. How did the person you knew ruin his life? I saw my kin lose 2 houses and $500,000 in a year because of a coconut. Drunk sidekick climbed into bed with his mother-in-law because he thought she had a crush on him. She didn't. It all ended badly. The girl with whom she was madly in love in high school got hooked on meth and began to sleep with her huckster, who was a jagala with a rapidly decreasing number of teeth in his mouth. Before my eyes, my father ruined his life because he did not care about his health. When I was 2 years old, he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. After his divorce from my mother, his life went downhill. He refused to take medication, and he also had a manic-depressive bipolar disorder. Since I was 5 years old, he has had some kind of amputation every year. Now I am 22 years old and he is 49. He has no legs below the knees. And the other day his thumb was amputated and he has only 3 fingers left. I really take care of myself so as not to become like him. My first wife ruined her life with alcohol. She was supported by many people. She was in the hospital for a week to dry out. Then she was on a treatment program for a month. Took 3 months before she was again offered a bottle. Then the doctor warned her that she had 1/3 of her liver left, and if she did not stop drinking she would die. And she died a year and a half after she started drinking again due to the fact that the kidneys and the dying oven could not process the consumed liquid. Her legs were swollen, and when she finally passed away she looked like she was 5 months pregnant. Fluid accumulated in her lower torso. She died at 38. It was in 1996, my brother got hooked on heroin. He was always a weird kid, but he was a very talented guitarist and one of the smartest, caring, fun, and unique people I have ever known. He died 4 years ago from an overdose of white china. I miss him every day, but given that he brought so much joy to the lives of those around him, remembering him does not make me sad to think about him. I laugh more than cry. The guy sold his apartment, which he rented out, and invested all the profits in cryptocurrency. This was in December 2021, fucking in his mouth. This is probably the worst timing case in history. Wait a minute, I have a feeling that he will break through the ceiling again very soon. You will all regret that you did not buy a cue ball. When it was so cheap. You'll see I'll sail my yacht sipping the best wines with 12 girls I really like. You will see everything. In the end, he lost everything to the penny. I was a pilot with a regional airline in the USA. It was a small startup airline. We had a tight schedule and a small salary. I worked with another pilot. He was a good guy. His wife had wonderful children, but he earned very little. So he contacted some people who wanted him to ship a shipment of the first to the US. He had to swallow a few condoms full of this shit and go back to the States. Along the way, the gum began to burst in his stomach. He went to the toilet and almost died there. The ambulance pulled him out on a stretcher. He was sent to the hospital where he was cured. And then they sent him straight to prison, and all this for the sake of some small amount. The dude I worked with got into crazy debt. Familiar people won the lottery. During lunch break we sat discussing what we would do if we won that amount. I would pay off all my credit card debts or trade my car for a newer model, and the guy said that this amount would not change his life in any way. He was 23 years old. And he already had more than $200,000 of debt on loans and a personal loan. As a result, he took out another loan to pay off another one and then continued to borrow money. About $40,000 a year. Then he came up with a brilliant idea. He has a bankruptcy petition. As a result, he lost his car home job. The last I heard of him was that he lived with friends, coached, worked for pennies, just trying to survive. One of my friends decided to enter into a relationship with a guy much older than her. In the end, she became nothing more than an extension of his worthless self. She has ceased to be a personality. He has no plan for life. She just goes where she goes. He is one of the main reasons why creepy adults or older men choose such girls. They are easier to control. Source: my ex-husband married a girl who was 30 years younger than him. At the time of the marriage, she was barely old enough to legally buy a drink. A bartender I know was an MMA fighter. He won several local fights, but at an amateur level. His gym started promoting him as a fighter. He was negotiating with an MMA promotion. Once one person kicked something superfluous in his direction. He answered the person, waved, dragged him in, and he hit his head on the asphalt and died. As a result, 5 years for manslaughter. No kidding, the most important thing I learned doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that the best thing to do in such cases is not to react. If I can stay calm when my 100-kilogram sparring partner sits on my chest and chokes me, then I should definitely be able to stay calm when someone opens their mouth at me. A friend of mine decided not to use contraception with a girl he had just met. He hung out with her all weekend, and he didn't ask if she was using any form of contraception at all. People come inside. I often feel sorry for this poor child who ended up in this world out of stupidity. I know a lot of people who do this and then are surprised that they got pregnant. My cousin got pregnant as soon as she just left school. She was aware of contraceptives and condoms and knew about safety in general, but when I asked her why she got pregnant, she said, well, we thought that if it happens, it will happen. It's not some fortune cookie, but a living baby. Talk about a person. After the death of my mother, one of my friends got hooked on an alcoholic and almost completely scored on his life. In the end, the booze took him to the grave. He died at the age of 32 years. The saddest thing is that we saw signs that he wanted to reform. He wanted to get his life back on track, but it was too late. The dude went down a crooked path. The dude fell head over heels into conspiracy theories. He became obsessed with chemtrails, flat earth, and reptilians. Dude turned away from all his friends. Now he wants to move to some then the wilderness around which there is not a damn thing, and drags the wife of the children there. On this 15-hectare site, there are no public services at home, and there is not a single school in the district. He is not only ruining his own life, but also the lives of his children. In truth, I would like his behavior to fall under the article on child abuse. I've seen a lot of lives ruined by gambling addiction. People who don't rummage think that gambling addiction isn't as destructive as drug addiction. But in fact, she is no less powerful. A novel can ruin his whole life in a matter of hours and not even notice it until he loses absolutely everything. Others will say, why didn't you just stop? It's as easy to stop as not to eat dessert after dinner. Because of this, the addict feels stupid and lonely instead of immediately seeing that it is an addiction. The goal of the gaming industry is to take money from the gamer while in public. They call it a game. They hire highly trained psychologists to help make the games as addictive as possible. They use terms like depletion of the player's funds, and by this they mean not that the player's trip to the casino should end with the lost money that he had with him, but that the gambler should give all his funds to what he only has. They leave a person with nothing, thereby making room in the chair for the next poor fellow who will become addicted. The girl I went to college with tried to kill me because of a fight. I was hospitalized for 3 weeks and had 4 surgeries. Now she can't travel the country, can't go to college, have been banned from entering both private and public institutions for 22 years. She will have to wear a special device on her ankle that will monitor her. She is forced to pay a large amount of money to me and the state. And she will spend the next 12 years in prison with no chance of parole. She went to one of the best engineering schools in the country, if not the best, and threw it all in the trash because of a petty quarrel. And because of what you quarreled, we had to make a project that determined the annual score for the subject by 30 to 35%. When the teacher randomly divided our group into pairs, this girl and I ended up in the same pair, and therefore we had disagreements about it. She told the teacher that she wants to do the project alone because she thinks that I can flunk her final score. The teacher was not against it. He asked me if I also want to do the project alone or give me someone else to be a couple. I decided to also work alone. When we were announced the final scores, it turned out that she received something like out of 50. And I scored the maximum then. She accused me of specifically refusing to take her as a couple in order to put a low score, on which the teacher reminded her that it was she who initiated the idea to work on the project alone. The next week when we did a lab experiment, she replaced the tea that was in my thermos with coffee. I am fatally allergic to coffee, and she poured it into my thermos while she went somewhere to get the necessary items for the experiment. The whole group of the teacher and she herself knew that I was allergic. I even have permission to leave the classroom if I smell a strong coffee smell when the smell itself can cause me serious breathing problems. I came back and took a big sip and literally experienced a shock because of this. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments under the video write how the person you knew ruined his life, and do not forget to watch my other releases and subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot of interesting things. Bye.